most important part. All right, so what I'm doing here today, so as a part of Create Better Health, we have these Create A recipes, because as you know, if you're part of the food pantry or similar things, your clients don't usually get the luxury of being able to go to the store and get this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient off a recipe that they want necessarily, you know? So these Create recipes were created so that you can take what you have available and turn them into a meal without having to be precise about what exactly you're going to get. So what we've got here, it said I was going to do a soup. I changed my mind because I felt like it. So we've got Create a Grain Bowl. And I sent Nelda a link to the handout. So that should be in the chat box, possibly. And if it's not, maybe she can figure that out.
It's there right now.
Perfect. Anyway, so if you follow along, we can get started with that. So to create a satisfying grain bowl, first we're going to start with a grain. So it suggests you can use quinoa, brown rice, white rice, barley, oats, wild rice, whole grain pasta, because we like whole grains, or vegetable-based pasta. So we're going to do a Asian style bowl today. So we're going to do whole wheat spaghetti, which is available to get with food stamps or WIC or whatever. Probably should have started that boiling earlier. That's how we're going to roll today. All right, and so then you select a variety of fruits or vegetables. We're going to vegetables. So I have got, it says that you can use, if you look at the little list, there's a whole bunch of things you can use there. I am going to use purple cabbage and carrots, and yeah, we're going to do, oh, and bean sprouts. So I'm going to chop those up a little bit. Some purple cabbage there. It's nice to have a nice variety of colors so that your food doesn't look all beige and horrible. Take off the outer ones. Shred those nice and fine. So you guys that work at food pantries and things, what do you get a lot of that you don't know, that people don't know how to use, or just stay on the shelves, or what? Let me know out loud because I can't see the chat box.
We go through seasons here at USU where we have inordinate amounts of bread. And so it's already baked. It's got a kind of a time limit on it because by the time we get it, it's already, you know, day old, maybe 2 days old. So that's been a challenge to say, people be like, well, I don't need 3 loaves of bread. We're like, please take 3 loaves and, you know, try to give them some ideas on what to do with them. But and then the produce goes through seasons as well, like naturally. But we have a really active gleaning team, so they'll come in with, you know, every season, whether it's like the flood of apricots or the flood of what comes next after apricots, like the plums and the pears, and then, you know, ends up with apples. And we just have so many that people, especially students, are like, I don't want an entire bushel. And like, and then, you know, we're hard pressed to tell them what to do with it all. But it's not predictable, I guess, is my thing.
Yeah, I can see that being a problem. Like, I know the food pantry has recently asked for a lot of baking supplies versus just baked goods because they really like some, just the flour and the sugar and, and oil. There is a lot of historical recipes I've seen that use breadcrumbs instead of flour. Like, so many things that you don't think you could use breadcrumbs for instead of flour, they they've found ways. So maybe I will look into that, get you up with some recipes there.
That just tells me that the overproduction of bread is not like a new thing. I guess apparently it's always been overproduced. So.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna do some carrots. And since carrots take a long time to cook and are very dense compared to purple cabbage there, I am going to make them really small. Oh. And once again, my kids have put peeler in some sort of unknown place. But that's okay, because I've been to 1917, so I know you can just scrape carrots. Check that out. You don't even need to use a peeler. So have you had particular successes in moving lots of one kind of good at a time? Like, what do you do when you have bushels and bushels of apricots?
I know that, and I can't ever like keep, extension is so big and all of the food folks do so much that I can't remember who does what, but I know that fruit does go to Casey Coombs and her students that process it for fruit leather. So I know that that's a project. With apples though, we recently purchased a cider press. It came in a little bit too late for this season of apples, but next year we are ready to press some cider. Because we've always known that was like, apples have always been, and students often don't know, like, you pick apples and they're, a couple of inches big, and students are like expecting like lunch sack, what are those called, like the lunchbox size of apples, and so they don't know what to do with the small ones, and that's where the cider pressing I think will be helpful for us next year. But yeah, and other than just like giving them, like portioning them into larger sacks and so that like they can't help but take more because that's how much we gave them. We also have been putting them outside the doors so that anybody can just wander up and take a bag of apples away. So those are like strategies, not that we're like, they're not good ones, but they get it so that we hope that people eat them rather before they go bad.
Is that mostly a problem with because they're gleaned and people haven't thinned the apples?
Possibly, and we were just talking about this in another session about like this like ugly fruit campaign, where it's the fruit is fine, because we'll get feedback on our surveys at the end of the semester saying, oh, your apples were tiny, or oh, your produce was bruised, and oh, your like stuff like that, where I feel like everybody knows that all this food is donated, but still that supermarket expectation. So I feel like there's an opportunity for us to educate on how to use stuff that doesn't look like the stuff from the store. But that's an opportunity that we haven't been able to take just because of capacity. Like it takes all of our energy just to keep the pantry clean and open and stocked. So maybe that's a partnership we look into someday.
It sounds like that's a good opportunity to do a social marketing campaign on misfit fruit or ugly fruit.
Yeah, well, and if we could combine that with Best By dates on canned food. I was just thinking about the phrase like beyond best, where it's like, oh, we are beyond the Best By date, but that doesn't mean that it's not awesome still or something like that. But yeah, like have a combined campaign with fruit and canned goods. I think that could go a long way, because we tell the students that, and it's on our landing page for our online order form. But to like actually say, guess what? You probably couldn't tell the difference in taste from a can after a can of black beans between a year before its best and the year after. I don't know, maybe you can, but I can't. So
I wonder if that was something that we could help with at Create Better Health, because that seems like we have the resources to do that for you or with you, and you don't have the people.
And I would love, and something that like Create Better Health has such great resources, and I think that just some of them can maybe be rebranded a little, so it's like student featuring, where I know that a lot of resources are like the images on the covers and on the websites are like very family based, and I feel like if we were just to put a little bit different face on some of them, so that, oh, here's a bunch of roommates who live together cooking food, or here's how some of the feedback we get when when we talk about barriers to eating nutritiously, and people talk about, I share a refrigerator with 4 other people, like I can't get a whole chicken from the store, and I can't freeze a whole bunch of things, and I can't do this. And so like, how do we put a little student stamp on some of the resources that are already there? I think that could be really cool.
I like that. I'm going to suggest that and bring that up, because we've got a lot of students.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to cook up my carrots and my cabbage, and I'm going to leave my bean sprouts raw because that's how I like them. Put a little bit of oil in there. That's so beautiful and colorful. We've got a lot of these create sort of templates. So we've got, oh, my hands are all wet. Oh no. We've got create a casserole. We've got create eggs. Create a fruity dessert. That's like a sort of like a cobbler or a crisp. Create a kebab. Create a pizza. Create a quick bread. Create a salad. Create a sandwich or wrap. Create a skillet meal. Create a smoothie. Create a soup. Create a stir fry. So those are all really good resources you can get from us. I've got a lot of downtime in between cooking. Oh, I've also got this for my protein. For my protein, it says you can have an egg. I thought about doing maybe a soft boiled egg and marinate it in some soy sauce. Or you can do beans or lentils, leftover meat from another meal, or just freshly cooked meat. I've got some turkey thighs here that's marinated in some teriyaki sauce. So after the vegetables are cooked, I'm gonna cook that up. Oh, and I'm gonna make a dressing as well for over the top. So for the sauce or dressing, it recommends teriyaki sauce, red chili sauce, marinara sauce, salsa, salad dressing, soy sauce, seasoned rice vinegar, barbecue sauce, pesto, olive oil, lemon or lime juice. Make your own. It really depends on kind of the direction you're going. As this is an Asian one, it actually comes with this peanut sauce recommendation. So I'm going to try that out. That's easy to pour. So let's see, we've got 3 tablespoons of creamy peanut butter. And I'm just gonna eyeball it because it's a sauce, it's not baking. I can do what I want. And then it says to use lime juice and soy sauce, but I've got ponzu, which is lime soy sauce. Because I didn't have lime juice, so we're just gonna do that. It's okay, I can do what I want. And a little bit of brown sugar. little bit of water, it says. I can doubt that. And it says use some red pepper flakes, but I don't really love red pepper flakes because they're just spicy without much actual added flavor. So I'm going to use this chili garlic sauce. Just a little bit. Not gonna go crazy. Well, maybe a little bit crazy. So my husband's home today and he likes things spicy. Then I'm going to use fish sauce, which isn't specified, probably because a lot of people are afraid of it. Stir that up. I'll stir this up too. Oh, my water is boiling. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to put my whole wheat spaghetti into that water. Probably just going to use some of it today. It's just stuff at home. So if I wanted to make all of it, we'd just eat some more later. Some people have strong feelings about breaking the spaghetti noodles or leaving them whole. Are any of you of the type that cringed when I broke the spaghetti noodles?
That's how I grew up doing it. And then I didn't realize that we weren't supposed to. So I'm open for anything.
I had an audible gasp one time from a guest in my home who actually didn't cook either. But he just said, that's not how my mom does it. And then he still ate it.
I think it broken works a little bit better for recipes like this too.
I think so too, and especially for kids, because it's the long, long noodles, it goes everywhere. Let's be honest, most of us aren't actually that much more coordinated than a child when it comes to long pasta. Smells nice, I'm liking it.
That sauce looks delicious.
It is delicious. It's a little bit sweet. I think I add a little bit more ponzu.
I think a cool other demonstration, like something that we would do like in person with the students, like just here that access the food pantry or just here on campus, is like different sauces, like, you know, and being able to like taste like what you just did, where you're like, oh, that's sweeter than I like it. But and then what do you do? So I think that would be a cool, because I'd say a good majority of college students know how to like boil some noodles. But what are other things that you can do with noodles than just put some marinara sauce on them? So that's kind of a cool idea. I have to think about that. I guess you would need a bunch of burners so that people could, well, no, not necessarily, because you could maybe pre-cook all the noodles and then people could just try different sauces.
You know, you can have like the same 5 ingredients, and as long as you have a whole bunch of different seasonings and spices and things and sauces, it tastes like a completely different thing. You know, especially considering all the cultures around the world that eat rice and beans, and they all taste completely different. All right. Those don't go there, kids. There we go. That's looking good. You cook some chicken in there now. A little bit more oil. Okay. And I put the vegetables back in the same thing that they were in when they were raw. I will not, of course, be doing this with the chicken because I don't like food poisoning. Start with that for now. And we'll back up after we get this. Stick that in there. Because I like to clean as I go. I can't stand when people cook in my kitchen and just leave everything out. At the end, it's a mess. I'm like, how did you do this? What happened? So speaking of fish sauce, if you want a dog to eat anything, it's just a little bit of fermented fish sauce on it. Works fantastic. Over. All right, and then after it says sauce or dressing, you've got choose one or more toppings with cilantro, sesame seeds, tortilla strips, nuts, avocados, green onions, grated cheese, dried fruit, raisins, cranberries, Parmesan cheese, bacon crumbles, feta cheese, croutons, crispy rice noodles, roasted chickpeas, tomatoes, olives. I'm not going to use all of those because that's crazy pants. But I have got some roasted peanuts, the cheapest nut, and some cilantro. Let's cut up a little of that cilantro right now, because then I can use this cutting board for the meat without getting cross-contamination. Gross.
What do you do with your extra cilantro? Like, I feel like that's something where you have to buy a whole bunch and then maybe I don't have plans for it right away. Like, what do you do with that?
Well, one thing you can do is you can store it correctly. If you just play it in your fridge, it won't last for very long. It'll get all slimy and gross. But if you cut off the tips there, see, I'm going to use this actually later for some Indian food. Cut off the tips there. You have to treat it like some flowers. Spicy flowers. So, goodness. There we go. So I've got a little glass. Put that in there. And then if you put it in the fridge just like that, it'll last for like a week. So you can use just a little bit at a time and not have it go slimy and gross. At least not as fast. You may still have to pick through and pick out a couple that didn't quite make it. That's okay, because ugly produce is okay. It just needs a little bit of love.
Now, I think another thing that I've done is if I'm going to cook it, like use it for cooking in a soup or a casserole or something, I have used ice cube trays and chicken broth and just put it in that way. That way, like if I'm making an enchilada soup or a taco soup, something where I want that cilantro flavor, then I can just toss that in and have it. But more often than not, I don't get to it in time. And so I do end up with slimy bags of cilantro and it's kind of gross.
I love that. That's fun. As long as the worst thing is buying some new cilantro or parsley and then opening your fridge and you've still got like 3 other bags now. Oh, they're all slimy now and I've forgotten about them. I never threw them away. It's fine.
I think for people that like cilantro, it can be very underused. I think we can throw it into more things than what we realize. Because it's just got so much flavor and so much brightness to it that we could throw it into any kind of leafy salad or a lot of dishes. And I know, at least for me, I don't think about it as often as I probably could.
Yeah, that's where the create recipes come in really handy. Because when you get to the, add toppings or add fresh herbs, then you can just go in and see what you have instead of having to work from a specific list, like a very specific list, which is really nice for people who are working from food pantry goods. Or having to make the most of everything they get.
You mentioned that beans and rice were something that a lot of food pantries have, but like you could easily just chop up cilantro and toss that in with a beans and rice dish, and it could be complete. Just a few spices, some cilantro, beans and rice, and it would be a very nutritious and healthy meal that doesn't take a lot of expensive ingredients.
Yeah, that'd be pennies. And in fact, just on this create a green bowl, you could do a base of rice, and then I'd probably throw in a tomato with the beans, or maybe some salsa. Yeah, and then put it over the top. Maybe cook it in some chicken broth. Then you wouldn't need an extra protein, although it would be nice. Have you ever had beans and rice with a fried egg on top? Very nice. You put a little bit of green onions on there, or olives.
Sometimes that fresh produce can be not as available when you're shopping or when you're getting your food from a food pantry. And the proteins are often very expensive. So knowing and what you can do with what you have is really important, and to be able to see the variety and the combinations that you can create. Just like you mentioned, tossing in tomatoes or salsa, those are things that, maybe they have a jar of salsa, and then that would help to implement that tomato or peppers or onions that maybe they didn't have those in fresh items, but they did have it in a jar of salsa. And so that adds flavor, it adds color to the dish, and it makes it more palatable.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, and at the bottom, if you look, we also have some suggestions on spices. So there's like Mexican. So all the spices that are traditionally used in Hispanic cooking: cumin, oregano, chili powder, cilantro, garlic, Italian, Asian, and then it says savory / Thanksgiving. I'm not sure exactly who came up with savory / Thanksgiving, but I kind of dig it. They've also got a breakfast bowl, because at first I was looking at these, selecting fruits to put on grain bowls, and I thought, gross. What are you doing? Like beans and rice and mandarin oranges, grapes, gross. But no, so they've got like a breakfast bowl there, because you don't have to go savory. You can do, well, first of all, people always think of oatmeal when it comes to breakfast in the morning, but you can cook a lot of things for breakfast. You can have breakfast couscous, you can have breakfast quinoa, breakfast rice. It doesn't just have to be oatmeal. And you can put a lot of things on there. All those fruits and cinnamon, vanilla, brown sugar. In fact, I actually prefer brown rice for breakfast because it's got a little bit more bite. Just like I prefer the steel cut oats over the old fashioned oats, because they've got more texture. Some things just, especially processed foods, they tend to be very soft. So you kind of crave that little bit of texture and crunch.
I like that there's ideas for using oatmeal, because sometimes people think of oatmeal just as boring oatmeal, But really, you can dress it up and you can get creative with it, and it can make a delicious bowl. Also rice. I know when I was serving as a missionary, I ate rice and milk and cinnamon for almost every breakfast. And that's just, it was something that I could make in a short amount of time. Rice was inexpensive and it was filling.
Oh, yeah.
And if I had, I think I probably added raisins to it or something like that, but I wasn't able to get to a grocery store often. And so I didn't have a lot of fresh produce to be able to incorporate in it. So those were things that I could eat that were more shelf stable, but were also filling for me so that I could, when I would have long hours of the day before I could get back to eating again.
All right. What's everyone's favorite oatmeal and toppings or mix-ins?
Mine's peanut butter.
I've
It
heard of that.
just melts in the peanut butter. Yeah, and I've been feeding my babies like sun butter oatmeal. They seem to like that pretty well. But yeah, I didn't grow up eating oatmeal, I think because my dad hated it. And so it wasn't until college that I actually ate oatmeal. And that was the first thing that someone suggested was peanut butter, which I realized not everyone does that. But the whole brown sugar and cinnamon, like I never went down that route. So
I've heard peanut butter and jelly is really good.
I'll have to try
You
that.
also get a lot of food pantries.
That's true.
A little bit more palatable for little kids or college students that are sometimes just kids.
I think one of my favorites is golden raisins, like fresh golden raisins that are still really soft, and I like diced apples in oatmeal.
Oh yeah.
Do you cook those apples when the oatmeal's cooking, or are they just sprinkled on top?
Just on top.
Yeah,
I like it
that
nice
sounds
and
good.
crisp and crunchy.
That sounds good. It's been a couple years, but we used to do a couple of like we had pop-up soup tents like to advertise our pantry services, just kind of for an hour out on the patio on campus. But this makes me think like a pop-up oatmeal bar with like all the different ideas of how to dress up oatmeal. That would be a really cool and easy pop-up that's like, and educational at the same time. So.
And you could create a grain bowl handout so that they
Yeah.
have other ideas and recipes as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got that.
You know, savory oatmeal too. You can do that.
What would you put in that?
It just whatever you put rice, you do cheese. It's like grits, you know.
Mm.
But the difference between grits and polenta is basically what you put with it. So you do an egg, some cheese, garlic, onion.
I like the idea of a pop-up oatmeal bar.
I would get there.
I might drive up to campus for that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to, so I'm not like directly over our food pantry anymore. And so I really like offloaded my brain, like of thinking about food stuff to the person who does supervise the pantry. And she couldn't make it to the session, but I'll bring it up to her. I don't think that we're necessarily like, it's not that we feel like we need to tell a whole bunch of like our marketing for the snack pantry is okay. But it's mostly getting the correct message about the pantry out that we want. And so I don't know if she has any like events in mind to do that, but I'll bring this up to her in case she is trying to think of something, because now we're going into winter. That would be a perfect like wintertime event for us to do. So not that you can't eat oatmeal in the summer,
but you could like do it in those paper cups that would keep your hands warm as they walk to class.
I'm going to put my veggies on here and make sure there's plenty of them. Nice and colorful and purple and orange. Because the eyes eat first. And just eating beige processed food, it gets just wearing on the soul, I feel. Plus, with an oatmeal bar, you could just literally go through the food pantry and pick out all sorts of random stuff.
Yeah, I think for a while, one of our students was assembling like a oatmeal box, like a, here's a not overnight oats, but like, here, all you need is to add water. And he was putting sprinkles in there because I think he just found a bunch of like cake sprinkles. And that was in the mix. Didn't ever hear how it was, but.
I have actually got a whole pile of recipes somewhere for things you can add to make your own instant oatmeal, if you'd be interested in that.
Yeah, that could be cool.
I feel like that one needs more time. All right. Slice that up. Look at that, it's nice and brown. Nice. Yes. Beautiful. Come here. Lay that across the top there. Yum. I'm sure it's good. It is good. Good news. Gonna drizzle some of that sauce on. And the heat will probably melt that peanut butter down a little bit too. I like my things saucy. A little bit of cilantro. More cilantro. All the cilantro. I really love cilantro. I don't think I've even opened these yet. Oh, I forgot the bean sprouts too. My goodness. It's a good thing I'm hungry. Put those on there. Should be nice and crunchy too. I think we're gonna have leftovers for a little while. Here we go. Hey, peanuts. There we go. Have you guys had any ideas looking at that green bowl thing of what you would do? Nelda?
I haven't looked at it because I'm afraid I'm going to lose all my windows that I need to have open. But I just tried for the first time cooking millet as a grain, and I really like it. It was like, I don't know, almost peanutty, I think, in my mouth, like the flavor of it. It had a little like nut-like flavor. So I'm excited to like try. It was kind of like a fried rice dish, but with millet instead. So I'm interested to see what it tastes like in other kinds of things. So I would probably try something with millet.
That sounds delightful. What kind of veggies would you put with it?
See, this is what's hard for me. Like, like, well, so going back to like what you just did with the sauce, where you tasted it and like you knew what to do. Like I am, when it comes to flavor combinations, I don't know what I'm looking for. And so, which makes it so that I put like weird combinations together and people are like, no, Nelda, you wouldn't do that. I'm like, well, why not? I don't see why not. And which, you know, can be good in some ways, but also just like, I don't know what helps things, like what makes things better. And so, yeah, maybe that just comes with practice, but
That's what I was gonna say. That's experience and just playing with your food.
Would you do like Mexican or Italian or breakfasty or Indian? Which of those do you like?
I like all of them.
Narrow it down, Nelda.
I know. Let's see. How would I make that like Italian-y? Because like the kids gonna eat it as well.
Group? What do you think?
With the millet, is that what you're saying? Something with the millet? And it's kind of peanutty?
Some millet.
Yeah, or maybe just nutty. Maybe not peanuts
Nutty.
specifically.
Nutty.
But
I would maybe go Asian, Indian, Asian, because a lot of times those things pair, like to have a little bit of flavor in the grain that you might also include someplace else. Like I like cashews. Like when I do grain bowls, I like to do cashews on the top of mine. I like peanuts on it too. It just depends on what I have, but so maybe like it's a layered nutty flavor.
If I were gonna do Italian, I'd probably do some sauteed zucchini. Maybe some tomato. Or just do millet, sauteed zucchini, spaghetti sauce, and like some hamburger. Just off the top of my head. I don't know. Parmesan, it's like a spaghetti with vegetables in it.
oh yeah, yeah. So it's like the sauce that you have like, yeah, okay. I can see it. Excellent grain bowl.
I'll have a bite for all of you. Do you have any more questions or discussion?
I don't think so, but thank you. And I don't know if Chelsea does. I know. Yeah, thanks for letting me just like chatter. We haven't really tried cooking demonstrations with our pantry, just because of the coordination and the whole idea of like trying to get students to yet another campus event. Like we're just kind of a little bit soured when it comes to planning stuff that college students should show up to, because we haven't quite found the way to like cut through all the other stuff that's happening on campus. So we really don't put our energy into events, but I think with what's that?
You can coordinate with us. We can help you out.
But with the right thing, and you know, food obviously is going to be a big pull. I think that it could be. I think we could be up to like trying something. So, yeah, and student wellness, which is someone we don't really talk to, which is interesting. But I think it has to do with geography. Like we're here in the student center, and student health and wellness as like a physical location is far away from us, and so we don't really cross paths. But I know that we've had a couple of discussions with our counseling and psychological services, and have a couple of staff members there who are interested in kind of that intersection of mental health and food, but we haven't had the capacity to like sit down and have a conversation of what that looks like, or what we could partner on. So it just comes down to like sitting down, making the time.
It could expand your reach.
Yeah,
by quite a bit. Like I know that it feels really hard right now to be able to coordinate those meetings to make that happen. But if you were to actually sit down and do that, how many more people would you be able to reach with that many more hands? So
right.
But yeah, I understand. And as like I'm a student, I'm an MPH student, and so I know that a lot of times I see events happening, but I'm so buried in everything else that I'm doing that I can't, all I can do right now is just focus on what I have to get done. It's those things that are extra that I'm like, someday there'll be time for that, but not right now.
Right,
So I
right.
can empathize with that. And as someone that's trying to plan events, that's got to be very challenging.
Yeah.
One thing that we can do from Create Better Health is that we do with the food pantry here in town is we go in and make up a recipe that uses a lot of the stuff they have. And then we put together kits. So we have your kit full of like all things you need to do to make that recipe. And then we have a table where we make some of the recipe and give out free samples. Because a lot of times people look at recipes and think, I don't really want that. But then once you try it, then you're more interested in it. So we could possibly coordinate with you on that as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and we've done meal kits before in the past, not with samples though. And so I think that that's kind of familiar territory that maybe we could. Okay, cool. Great. Well, and if Chelsea's listening and like, so Create Better, like USU Extension has arms everywhere in the state. So don't just think this is just a Logan thing.
Yeah.
She's in that Davis Technical College. So
We've got Create Better Health in every county, I believe.
And
yeah.
Davis County is really strong. You've got great ambassadors there that do a lot of good in their community. So if that's something that Chelsea would like to do, then for sure reach out.
Cool, great. Yeah, well, I don't have anything else and I need to start up the 2 o'clock session, but thank you so much, Jana. And yeah, and thank your family and your dogs for letting us be in your kitchen today.
Thanks for visiting, everybody.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll be in touch because I think that there's some cool things that we can do that help both of our causes. So
Working together.
yeah. All right. Okay, well, thank you, Jana, and thank you all. And we'll talk to you later.